We're live!
Oh,
everyone.
wow.
Hello. Yeah, we started the show. What's up,
Hello.
Kentucky Fried Kung Pao Clits? Welcome to Guarsenio's High School CD Booklet Review. It's the show where I, Guarsenio Hall, go through my high school CD booklet and talk about the CDs that I bought when I was around 15 years old. Today, I am joined by Brynn and Jeremy from Generation Laws. Generation Laws. I was
A
gonna be
show
like,
you've been on multiple
great-
times.
You
the
have been on
Great
it at least
Movie
twice.
Podcast.
And also from Al Bummer on GiantBomb.com.
That's
also,
true.
Jeremy is from Al Bummer on GiantBomb.com.
Yes, please call me Knuckles the Hedgehog when we're talking about
Yeah,
when we're talking about Giant Bomb.
when we're talking about Giant Bomb. Also, Jeremy has written for 2 Minutes to Late Night, the show, like the real show.
That's right.
That's true.
That's right, Guarsenio.
We don't need to keep kayfabe. I'm wearing a sweatshirt.
I was going to say, I don't know if this is a new detail to the Guarsenio paint or what, but I noticed, I was watching a couple of the videos to prepare for today, and I noticed that you, maybe you've always done this, I never noticed, but you started painting an angle into your head to match the way your hair swoops. The top of the white up here. I feel like in my mind's eye, it used to be straight. And then maybe at some point you just got tired of it getting in your hair and you just started to do an angle.
So whenever I have to do it, I will paint to avoid my hair because it's just such a pain. It'll get caught in it and get into my eyes. When it was longer, it could get, if I moved my head, a strand would get caught and then poke me in the eye. And then I'm doing the whole episode like this. So,
yeah, and there's only so much you can even move your face before you just fuck it all up.
Yeah, there's just nothing. There's not
Very
much I can
delicate
do.
process.
Yeah,
it's a delicate process. So now I just avoid it by just painting around. There's two ways you can handle it. Danhausen, the wrestler, he paints a black frame around his head and just paints into his hair and pushes it back, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And that's one way to do it. But I was like, that's now his thing. That's a really good idea that I wish I thought of.
You know what's funny is I feel like my first film set experiences were working with you on 2 Minutes, and now at work I end up directing videos fairly frequently, and we have to hire makeup people all the time to do the makeup for the actors and stuff, and
yeah,
there will be pretty much on a regular basis, maybe 3 to 4 times per video that we shoot. There will be a moment where the makeup artist will be like, "Hey, can we take a little pause here? I got to go do a touch up." And I'm looking at it, I'm like, "What are you talking about? It's barely sweaty."
I know.
Because all my experience is you just dripping.
Yeah. Me melt, the first thing you ever shot with us ended with me completely melt. It looked ridiculous.
Yeah.
Unlike now, where it looks brutal and cool.
Yes.
It looks brutal and cool. And speaking of brutal and maybe cool, today, maybe, listen, I'm a Korn guy. We're talking about Korn on this episode. We're specifically talking about Life is Peachy, their second album.
Yes.
And I before we talk about the album specifically, you guys are on the show because you are late 90s archaeologists to me. We've done a lot.
I feel like that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Most things that we have done together have involved specifically this era, whether it be movies or music or whatever. So what's your history with Korn? Brynn, start us off.
I was a latecomer to Korn. Korn was kind of they were in their groove, rhythm-based grooviness was sort of was a little off-putting to me. I'd heard Korn before. The first Korn song I'd heard that really struck me was Make Me Bad. And so the first Korn record I bought was Issues. And that was 1999, but I don't think I bought it till 2002 or 3. And
was Korn on the list of music that would have been considered too secular in your home?
Oh yeah. No. I mean, literally, if it was on the radio, it would have been considered too secular. Korn was like off the deep end of what I absolutely was not allowed to listen to.
So you had to be old enough that you could like go and get a record on your own and like hide it away.
Well, the way I actually came into music that was secular was mostly the library, which had basically every like new record just for free, and you could put it on your computer and like hide it because my parents didn't really know. So I definitely got issues in real life, but I did get this and Follow the Leader from the library. I'd heard this at the time. I liked this one less because it was so silly.
It's I feel like the library is probably the funniest place to get a Korn record.
For sure.
Followed very closely by how I listen to Life is Peachy today, which was on my Amazon Alexa in my kitchen while I was preparing my toddler's dinner.
Play Twist by Korn.
I literally, it was like playing Life is Peachy by Korn.
That's Brynn, that's so funny because I haven't met a single other person who got like starter metal albums from the library. That was me.
Oh yeah.
I did that. Like I couldn't, it was kind of the same thing. I wasn't allowed to buy Korn records. Korn was my first favorite band. I talked,
really?
On this show, I've already done Follow the Leader. We talked about that album, and I've talked a lot about my intro to Korn, where like kids just would like tell lore of Korn on like the playground. Like, this band's really fucked up. They wrote like a song and like he like cried at the end and it was sad. Like
Daddy,
yeah. So I was like, oh my God, I gotta hear this. Like they so I also, I think, tried to buy issues and I bought like the edited version.
Oh no.
That was the only way. I wasn't like allowed even by, I was very clearly like 10 years old. And I was not allowed even by like Tower Records employees. They were like, that's a fucking little baby. He can't be buying a Korn record. But one time when I grabbed it and I was like trying to like be like Little Rascals my way into buying the album, I was like, yes, I did it. They sold me the album and it was edited.
Of course, yeah. I got a copy of The Golden Age of Grotesque by Marilyn Manson that was edited on accident. And I had to, I remember specifically going back to Walmart and being like, I would like the non-edited version, please. And they were like, we don't carry that. And I had to I had to like make them give me my money back.
That's so funny. Jay saying in the chat, very similar experience, talking about Life is Peachy. This weirdly, so just off the bat, this, I don't think it was my favorite Korn record when I first got it, but I think now having like listened to it today, like this is exactly what I want from Korn. And I think this album is weird and kind of fun. I had a good time.
I like it. It is still, I think, a weak back half where they just start to get silly. They cover Ice Cube, they cover Lowrider. I think Adidas is a stupid song, and I've always hated that song, and it was like really one of the things that turned me off them. I think even before I got into Korn, I was really into Dead Z. A band that Jonathan Davis. Yeah, I would be because I am. And I still am. And I will not be apologizing.
I'm sorry, but I won't apologize.
Okay, but who is Dead Z? I don't know who that is.
That's just specifically funny, like new metal. Like to me, like it was very much like they were the brand of like new metal band that I feel like everyone was like, okay, Korn, and then you have like
Limp Bizkit.
You have the Limp Bizkit, the kids that branched off for Limp Bizkit, or the kids that branched off for Slipknot. But then you had, I feel like, the kids who were also getting into like deep anime, also getting into Dead. And I was like, that's some Brynn energy.
Yeah, for sure. Well, they were just like, they were color coded members. Like
Okay.
they're like one was a blue and one was red and one was gray.
What do you mean? Like they would
their
wear
whole
like
outfit,
a Power Rangers type of
yes,
thing. Like
exactly.
when the Power Rangers aren't in their Power Ranger outfits,
They still
and they'd
wear
be at the dojo, but they're wearing the outfits.
But it's like it was like dark collegiate school uniforms where they'd wear like blazers,
Okay.
but they'd be like goth. They had like face paint
Yeah.
and like bloody mouths and
nice.
stuff. And their music was sort of new metal, but also very synth like goth. It's great. I still really love it, but they only made 2 records, but their first album had only any traction because Jonathan Davis was like a guest on the first song. And that was the first time I was like, where is Jonathan Davis? It just sounds like, I guess he does screams.
Right.
But they were on Korn's
How
label.
do you spell this?
Deadsy, Deadsy.
S-Y.
Yeah, S, no Z. Surprisingly,
I
no Z.
I really would have I would have bet a lot of money it was going to be a Z.
No.
Wait, a Z and an I, maybe, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No. It's actually Elijah.
These guys look like fun.
They're great, but he's the main singer is Cher's son, Cher and Greg Allman's offspring.
Well, no wonder they were such a success.
Yeah.
I believe. Do you know the Cannibal Corpse Cher story? Do you know about this?
No.
I think that because Cher's son is in Dead Sea, that son had a wedding and invited Cannibal Corpse to play like a party the night before.
Oh, okay.
At or something, and like
the rehearsal dinner
or whatever. they're going to the wedding, and George Fisher is just like, oh boy, he like feels bad that he's like playing his music in front of like Cher, Cher's family and everything, and he like goes to her house like the next morning. And Cher is straight up just like polite and just like, yeah, like that was fun, good set. And he's like, Cher, cut the shit. You can tell me you fucking hated it. And she goes, and she goes, hey, I was metal before you were fucking bored. I had a nice time. and he was like, all right, Cher, yeah, you got my ass. You got my ass. I fucking love that story. But
nice.
If Dead Z is very,
but my point was that Dead Z takes itself very seriously, and they do what they do, and there is no room for joking around. And Korn always, like, I really appreciate that they tend to choose whatever makes someone the most uncomfortable. Like they seem to be like, it's not about being cool and spooky or taking self seriously. It's about like, is this going to make the person who's listening feel upset and uncomfortable?
Yeah, that's an interesting point, because the thing that really struck me listening to this today is that like in my memory of Korn and the way that I have filed them away in my head is like they are a spooky band. They are scary. They're like horror oriented. They're kind of creepy, whatever. And then I was listening to this. I was like, I wouldn't even call that like a back note flavor of this album. I would say that this is primarily really horny and disgusting and like uncomfortable, and like it's the kind of music of people who's it's the only way to articulate this is that the music sounds like Jonathan Davis's balls smell.
Which is like musty and like kind of smoky. So, like cedar a little.
Smoky like a meth. Which is the primary ingredient to this album.
Yes.
The thing is with all the horny stuff is that it without context, it is just like it's just misogynistic and gross. But with context, it's horrifying.
Yeah. You know what I was thinking?
It's him talking about his own abuse and writing from the perspective of his own abuser, which is
always
a lot. It's a lot
But then also it's just like it's also just sometimes just like I like sex. It's nice to have sex.
Yeah, all day.
Right.
I think about it personally. But like
So,
what I was thinking was that it's like
I love all day I think I dream about sex, and I just the context. The reason is that I think it's really funny that they wrote that song and then they, for the next like 8 years, just exclusively wear and have a deal with actual Adidas.
Yeah.
Yes, that's very funny.
That
good.
fucking kicks ass. That's
The thing
so
I think
funny.
The thing I think is really funny about that song is that it's like it's almost as if it's told from the perspective of somebody who like is like trying to oversell how much sex they've had in their life in order to have sex with somebody. Like they're trying to be like, hey, I'm not a virgin here, okay? I'm pretty fucking experienced, in fact.
But it's funny
but then they keep accidentally undercutting themselves by being like, I'm really horny, by the way. I'm so fucking horny.
Yeah, I'm thinking about he's not doing it.
Yeah.
He's not fucking constantly.
He occasionally has a suave line just like, what's your name? Doesn't fucking matter. I'm going to have sex with you anyway. But then he's like, but all day I'm dreaming about this, by the way.
Yeah. I can't stop it. Well, have you seen
compulsive.
the music video for the
Yes, I watched it today.
I have an illness.
It was so funny.
It's so funny.
They're just dead. That's the whole thing is they're just dead in a car.
They're dead.
And the first thing you see on their car is a sticker on the window that just says porn.
I know. It's so funny.
I'm always dreaming about porn.
I love I love that their concept was like, we should be thinking about sex so much that we're thinking about it when we're dead, and our like their zombie video is they're fucking their body bags.
Yeah.
So insane.
What if you got so horny that you died?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think even as a kid, I was just like, so that's not edgy. That's not, everyone is.
I know.
Like, that's how the world works.
Yeah,
like,
otherwise where would kids come from?
I don't know what this is supposed to be.
That's such a big part of this. Like, I think why this is now my I think it has been for a couple of years. Anytime I've revisited this album, this is exactly, it has everything that Korn can offer. It has a lot more energy than their debut album, which is famous for just being like just so emotionally intense the entire time. But this is when they are also silly. I feel like this is a perfect representation for nu metal as a genre, because you have bounce riffs, you have like chaotic emotional screaming and just like oversharing with everything, but then you also have like the Limp Bizkit and like Blink-182, like how many cuss words can we say?
They literally have a curse word song. It's just curses.
That's just curses. Like they have a shit, piss, cock, cum, cocksucker song.
What did Blink-182 call it? Family Reunion.
Family Reunion. I'm in for all of this because they're just, it's every facet of it. It's just all of it feels authentic, and I think that that's a key element to an album succeeding for me. Is if it feels, I'm like, these guys are actually all of these levels in the studio. Like they're like, Jonathan Davis is like, give me a second, boys, I'm gonna go to my trauma, and then we'll tell the
I have to access my trauma.
That's that's one of the weirdest things about Korn in general, is that like these guys were in a band called LAPD, and they were basically just a funk band,
right?
And then they like heard Faith No More, and they were like, what if we do this? And then like they were like, they met Jonathan Davis, and he was like, I do Mr. Bungle, but also I am traumatized. And they were just like, let it rip. Let's
go
see
nuts,
what that
buddy.
Does. And it's like Korn is basically just Mr. Bungle, but like a little angrier and like has like a creepy aesthetic.
Yeah.
And I think that's cool, I guess. I've never been, it's like a facet of rock music and funk music that I just like really didn't grow up getting or like knowing, but like going back, it's a great time. I do like personally when Korn got a little more interested in like having a melody that you could sing along to. That's why like Issues and like the one after that are my favorite ones. But I mean, like there's stuff on here that is still has really cool melody. Like my favorite song on this is probably Good God. Where it's like has a scream along, get the fuck out of my face kind of thing, and has a cool like guitar riff. And that's like, it's nice that they go that way.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, in terms of melody and stuff, like, that's why I feel like Follow the Leader is the one that I like more than this. And I feel like, I mean, I couldn't tell you possibly what, like, modern Korn fans consider to be, like, golden age Korn or whatever.
Probably that.
But yeah, my memory of when I was into Korn would have been that, like, the main conversation was between this and Follow the Leader. And the question really boiled down to, do you like the more, like, authentic, raw, emotional Korn, or do you like the more like big bangers, like shit you can sing along and dance to Korn?
The thing is that when I revisited, that's how I viewed it. That's what I thought the conversation was, and I was like, yeah, Follow the Leader is their biggest seller, and it's got Freak on a Leash on it. It's got the Life on it. And then listening
Got the Life is what a fucking song, by the way.
It's so much fun. But the thing is, when you listen to that album, it's those two singles and then a mess. It is the back half of this album like doubled.
Yeah.
And
really?
With these two hits. It doesn't have a lot of other hits on it. It's mostly and it's all from the perspective, like all the lyrical content is either like fake bad rapping, like them leaning into the bad hip hop side of themselves, or the all day I dream about sex perspective.
Right.
And with this, and I get why you can't access this type of the traumatic energy of this album all the time, but it is.
Well, you can if you are a band called Shoo Shoo. And I was gonna bring up.
I don't know them.
That this is an album that like I don't like this one and the one before it. I think rival Shoo Shoo in like being so uncomfortable. It's hard for me to imagine this album getting popular. Like I'm shocked that Korn got as big as they did off of these two records.
Yeah,
because it's kind of hard to listen to even now.
Yeah, emotion. There are
Issues is all bangers. Like Issues is all like consistent, and it's just like let's do Freak on a Leash 12 times.
Yeah,
and it's then
great.
This is like let's talk about some of the most like taboo shit on the planet, and then also have 5 really stupid songs about Lowrider. It's so uneven, but it's like you kind of gotta love it for that reason.
That's exactly how I feel about it. And I think that there's it's so weird that this is the band that invents this genre, because it clearly was like a Mike Patton inspired thing, but then it becomes this let's do heavy metal without any of the technicality. Like let's just make it all about the raw emotion and the anger. And I think that that's cool because it did put in the first album, in this album, it's really all about Jonathan Davis, like, and the rest of the band is just providing like sonic texture to whatever he's doing. Like everything that the band is doing is rhythmic or noisy, and he's carrying the melody. And
that's what I was going to say. Is like my memory of Korn is so oriented towards like Got the Life and stuff that like my memory of them is that the band is like tuned in together and like really like keyed in. But then I was listening to this and I was like, the band is like barely there. It's really it's the Jonathan Davis show with these guys kind of like giving him a little bit of like low end so that he doesn't get completely lost in space.
But like to be fair, like there are like the drummer is way better.
He's
than
going
I remember.
Nuts. Yeah, he's so crazy.
Right.
I don't know his name. Sorry, Korn drummer. But,
Dave. Is it really?
It's just Dave. Everyone has
got like monkey head.
Yeah. It's monkey head, Fieldy and Dave.
And Dave.
Wow. Dave is going ham on the drums, and like it's funny. I read a little interview where from 2012 where Jonathan Davis is like, I don't, metal to me is like Judas Priest and Iron Maiden. Like I've always thought of us as a funk band. And like you can really hear that because it's like the band is like if you tuned them up from drop C or whatever they're in, it's basically like Parliament riffs and
Totally.
And the drummer, especially his snare is tuned like it's just so snappy and high. It's like all the time.
Yep.
And they're doing a really good, like you're saying, they're like holding him in. And then Jonathan Davis is just like freaking out into a different dimension.
Just all over the place, just making the song basically.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't really have like a tune.
Exactly.
They're like Meshuggah. Like they're just like like it's about rhythm.
It's like untechnical Meshuggah.
Yeah.
And it's the thing is that revisiting this, like I always expect to hit an age where I am like, I think when I disconnect from Korn, I'm ready to laugh at them. But anytime I actually participate in their material, at least like this era, I leave impressed. Like he's an impressive singer. I did like my first tour when I was 19 was making like a little like DVD, like a bonus DVD for a band, and they were opening for Korn, and I remember like going like, oh, I should watch Korn. That'll be really funny. It'll be funny to see what they're like now. And I watched their set and I'm like, that was I'm singing along and I'm like, this is incredible.
Can I propose something?
Yeah.
I think that the beauty of Korn and the beauty of this genre of music is that you don't have to choose, that you can laugh at them and recognize how fucking sick they are.
And they're in on the joke.
But they're also not a joke. And they're also very funny, but they're also like talking about trauma. They are just constantly walking a tightrope where like on either side of them is like the worst music you've ever heard. And they're just kind of like walking along, just like, am I going to fall this time? Who knows?
Dude, it's funny.
Am I a genius or am I, it's the studio? Yeah. It's great.
I was in Vegas last week, and I went to the Zach Baggins Haunted Museum, and the pictures of people who had visited and are friends with Zach Baggins, of course, included Jonathan Davis. And it's just so perfect because that's exactly the line of like, are you a joke or are you not a joke? And does it matter? Because it's fun either way.
Right.
And whether I'm laughing at you or with you, it doesn't really matter. But they're a match made in heaven, I think.
I would agree. I also think that this album, like, it's really nuts because this album is what, this is 1996, I believe.
Yeah.
There's like, I feel like this is when it's really weird that I hear on this album more than any other, like they're doing like Converge riffs on this. Like there's a lot of like midnight, like they're doing what, like that's what hardcore punk has become, is like the dissonant chords or whatever. It feels like there was a weird, like, we're in tune with punk culture also. And they're like doing these crazy squonky riffs that you kind of don't hear them do afterwards. You don't hear it before then.
They have stuff that sounds like the first Daughters record.
Right.
Like they have like weird grindcore stuff that happens, and
it's awesome.
they're all over the place.
Yeah.
Have you heard their newest album, the one that came out this year?
I have not. I'm scared to listen to it.
I listened to it, and it's there are the choruses, every like third measure threatened to become Nickelback, but then like twist back into Korn. Like they do something so annoying and like dark sounding and like discordant. Like they are still choosing the most discordant option, even though their production sounds like slick Nickelback like, you know, post grunge or whatever.
Right.
Mhm.
And so it's still pretty interesting, even though they're so old and like doing the same thing. But it's I thought it was okay. Like it's not embarrassing.
Yeah, I could see. I remember like after issues, a lot of like most stuff that I listened to, like they were my first favorite band, and they eventually peter out of that because there's just, you know, I think it's that accessing the trauma, accessing this energy is really hard to do, and I think that their catchiness and their emotional writing depth kind of reach the peak on issues, and then they're just like, well,
Yeah,
we can write some stuff that sounds like Korn, but it's just not going to hit the same way.
true.
Um,
How do you think Chino feels about saying the N-word on this record?
boy,
because they then collaborate with Ice Cube 2 times
they
on
sure
his
do.
record and on the next record. They
I
covered the Ice Cube on this album, and I feel like Chino was like, "Yeah, this is fine. It's 1996, and I'm Mexican."
I'm in Southern California and I'm Mexican and it's
Yeah.
1996. And now in 2022 he's probably like
Don't touch your face.
why did I do meth in the
I
studio?
watched it happen. I watched you almost do it.
I know. I have to do this, and we did we Brynn did bring up daughters. I saw someone bring up daughter. It was in the chat. R.I.P. to ever talking about that band positively ever again.
They're
Good
great,
riddance.
and every album they've ever written is great, and that guy's solo album is also great. Did they do something bad?
Oh yeah.
Uh-oh.
Oh yeah. He done the daughters guy.
Yeah, I heard he did something bad. I don't want to know about it, but
Listen.
album is good.
Well, here's the thing. The thing about that type of grindcore or whatever is there's a bunch of other shit that sounds exactly like it. So you can absolutely find music like weird exploding computer music that isn't written by a psychopath.
That's true.
Yeah. Like so I think it's very funny that there is like the new metal, like a Korn and a Slipknot. They have like all of I think it's funny that re-listening to these albums now, I'm noticing all these like weird little hardcore tie-ins. Like,
oh yeah, this is what I wanted to say to you is that because I feel like we've even talked about this before about how like my first introduction to Slipknot was as a hardcore adjacent band. I didn't know that they were metal until you told me they were metal like 10 or 15 years later. Like I always thought of them as being hardcore adjacent at least.
Because they have that energy.
Hardcore, but also because like the shows that people would see them on were billed with like other like hardcore bands. Like there was much more mixing between these scenes early on. Like before like all the major label deals started coming around, before like the TRL fight between Korn and Britney Spears and stuff, when these were kind of like smaller acts playing smaller shows, there was more mixing than people I think realize now.
Absolutely.
You know, and
I mean like Ozfest and I think there was another one where it was just like anyone who was heavy.
Yeah, exactly.
It was like there wasn't like a scene. It was just like like Korn was the first band to even be called nu metal.
Right.
Like their first album, people were like, "Oh, this is heavy metal.
Yeah.
This is just metal music now." And then people were like, "Actually, it's kind of funky and new."
Yeah. We'll call it
new metal.
Funk metal. No, that sucks. What about new metal?
Yeah. I'm sure that's absolutely what they like. I'm sure out the gate they were like, it's like this funk metal thing. It's kind of like because this happens at like the same time as like Science from Incubus, so it's probably it's weird to think that like Korn and Incubus were probably written up in the same way.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yes.
And then
that was how I knew
that same show.
I remember my brother introducing me to Incubus as these guys are scary, and then I listened to them, and then like because it was Science, and then like a week or two after I heard Science for the first time was when the next album came out, and I was like, these guys are just like into dolphins and shit. This isn't scary.
Their name is Incubus, but dolphins? Yeah.
All their songs are about like the sand between your toes and shit.
Yeah, driving for some reason. Mushrooms or something. When I in 2006 I saw Deftones, and guess who was opening for them but Deadsy. Great
so
show.
Funny.
Yeah.
It's very
they don't sound anything alike.
Dude,
I wonder if would
Jonathan
you say that
Davis found all of these bands? Like he finds Limp Bizkit, he finds the Deftones, and he finds Deadsy. Like
Limp Bizkit, Fred was like tattooing him or something like that, right?
Something like that.
Really?
But he is Jonathan Davis. Not only is Korn like the first new metal band, but they find every other big new metal band that isn't Slipknot. But I also, again, as Jeremy said, like I don't count Slipknot is a hardcore band.
Yeah,
they are hardcore and Cirque du Soleil, and it fucking rocks.
Yeah, they are their own thing. But Korn kind of is its own thing too. But Korn is interesting because it's like I always think of them as kind of being like the Ramones of new metal, where like the Ramones are like the first punk band, but literally no other punk band sounds like the Ramones. And Korn are the first new metal band, but like no other new metal band sounds like this. They all kind of go on this different tip altogether. Like nobody's playing like funky shit like them. Nobody's like taking all these like broad influences that they do. Like it's much more oriented towards like the like it seems like the stems from Korn then become like you take like the Limp Bizkit path, or you take like the
Linkin Park,
like the Linkin Park path, like things like that. Like there's like specific lanes of new metal that you can occupy, but nobody ever is like we're gonna just play slap bass and have crazy dreads and stuff and like
POD a little.
No, but POD even is like I feel like they're more like butt rock than anything. Like,
and they're Christian.
But I love POD, by the way. I actually really like their music.
The first like 3 albums are amazing.
Yeah, they rule.
Or no, Brown, the Snuff the Punk, Southside, and then
they were a band that,
Satellite.
Much like your experience of Korn, where you were like, I'm going to go laugh at them, and then you see them and you're like, this fucking rocks. Like, that was my POD experience, because my band when I was in high school played a lot of Christian youth centers because like that's just like one of the only venues that you could like book shows at on Long Island. And I ended up like making fun of POD every time we would play one of these shows. And then somebody was like, have you ever actually like listened to POD beyond the I Feel So Alive song? And I was like, no, I don't think so. And they like took me in their car and sat me down and they were like, let's listen to POD together.
Yeah, that's their
And I was like really
album.
Drunk and I was like, all right, let's fucking listen to it, man. And I listened to it. I was like, this fucking rocks, man. I love this.
I love this. I love God.
I love God. I'm into it, man.
Jesus saves. He really does. Yeah. Someone also mentions Tool, which I guess is another path. Tool path.
Is Tool a new metal band?
I don't know, but I love Tool.
I think they count because they're probably playing. Like that's the thing is new metal is a genre, is a word that people say and they think it means Limp Bizkit, but it's originally tied to Korn and it really just meant like there is a new like style of metal that isn't thrash, and we're trying to figure it out. But all these bands are so drastically different, and even Korn after this album, like this is the album where the term gets coined. They don't fucking sound like this anymore. Like the screaming trauma leaves after this. And that's, I think that's why this is my favorite one, is because it's every piece of Korn put together. I also think that this is the best that Jonathan Davis's voice sounds.
His voice is very good on this. The
sounds sick.
His metal scat thing never gets better than Twist. Like it's really Twist is like, to me, that's the quintessential Korn song. Like
lyrics,
that is to me
1
like
minute long.
Everything that they are just distilled perfectly into a little piece of music.
I've always loved his voice. I've always been drawn in by his voice.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's sexy. It's a good time.
His big like meaty growl that he does, followed by his like little wiener worm sound when he says like Twist.
Yeah.
I love it.
I love
the
it
two
so
sides
much.
of him. He's our generation's Axl Rose.
He is at once.
Yeah.
He is at once based and also cringe.
The tightrope. The tightrope of Jonathan Davis.
Following the leader.
Yeah, that's what it should have been on the cover. It shouldn't have been a fucking hopscotch. It should have been a tightrope with Jonathan Davis walking it in a kilt.
And everyone looking up.
Yeah, all the kids are below.
Yeah, man. Well, we've gone a little over 30 minutes. I think it's
That's Korn.
Could you hear that?
Korn. No.
All right, good.
Damn.
Yeah,
We do have a soundboard here. It's not doing
I
anything
can hear
for
it
you.
vaguely in the room. Is it coming out of the PA?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. But yeah, it's
Funny to
like
us.
we did.
That's
also,
all that counts.
Also, I like Tony Pagliori brought up
Incredible
Primus.
name, Tony.
Incredible.
Pagliori.
I probably pronounced it wrong. Tony, I'm sorry.
Pagliori.
But what do you, I mean, does
Pagliori.
Primus count?
Primus was pre new metal. Like,
yeah,
they were inspired by Faith No More and Primus.
They're like they're a proto new metal, whatever.
They're like experimental funk and rock grunge stuff. They liked that stuff.
Right.
So yeah, Primus is in the lineage, but I feel like Korn is where it like coalesces into a new genre.
Yes, I agree.
And Rage.
Rage, I feel like is just so they're just their own thing.
Yeah.
Just neck pickup guitar tone alone puts them into like a whole other thing.
Yeah, I think they were. I mean, I read another interview where they said that they were straight up fans of like Naked City. Yeah. So like they were really like trying to be an experimental band. Again, I'm shocked that this band got big.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Basically
got big, let alone like defined like late 90s heavy music entirely.
Yeah, and we're like on movie soundtracks.
Yeah,
and like a huge band.
Dude, yeah, they're still huge. They're still like a stadium band.
Yeah.
That's so bananas.
Hey, good for you, Korn.
Good for you, Korn.
John, you deserve it.
You deserve it. Well, folks,
you've worked hard.
You worked hard. You did. Folks, it's about that time. Now that we've dug into the lore of Korn, we got to talk about the lore of this album art.
Oh, yes.
Folks, I've pivoted the little screen. Did it update?
Do you guys see the album on there? Yeah, it looks like it's on there.
Yeah, look at that. There's
what
the
do you use, an
album
OBS?
What do you got? OBS up in here?
You got OBS? You got the little scenes set up?
I fucking wish.
I know about streaming.
It would be a lot easier if this was OBS. This is kind of a clunker. But folks, let's talk about this album art. Jeremy, would you like to start us? You are a guest.
Oh, sure. I think this album art looks like if The Godfather was about a hot topic.
Oh, I do like that. Before you do your bit, I think it would be a fun.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
Segment.
We talked about this before we started. This album art is so ugly.
How ugly is it?
But then the format doesn't work for it's like The Godfather was about a hot topic. But
yeah, this album is so ugly that it looks like
right. Yeah. Sorry.
Brynn?
I forgot to think of a joke.
Oh, I got one for you. I can just give you one if you want.
Go ahead,
it.
you do it.
This album art is so ugly.
How ugly is it?
It's so ugly. It looks like Slender Man Origins.
Very nice.
Brynn, incredible joke. Yeah. All right. This album art is so ugly.
How ugly is it?
This album art is so ugly, it looks like a deleted scene from Home Alone where Macaulay Culkin puts on the aftershave and immediately dies.
I was trying to find a path to a Macaulay Culkin joke, too.
Right.
I couldn't quite get it.
You got one, Jeremy?
I'll do one.
Yeah, go for it.
This album art is so ugly.
How ugly is it?
It looks like Insidious 3, living in a JCPenney's.
This album art is so ugly.
How ugly is it?
It looks like if Jonathan Taylor Thomas starred in a live-action remake of Death Note.
Oh yeah, it looks like
it looks like the Shinigami behind it.
All right.
What is it supposed to be? Oh,
yeah, what
ahead.
is supposed to be happening here? Is it like his trauma is like a bigger shadow of him that like looms over him, I guess?
Probably.
And the little boy is Jonathan Davis?
I think this is, like it's like this is what it looks like, 3 hours before Saturn devours his son. Right?
Yes.
Anyway, this album art is so ugly.
How ugly is it?
This album art is so ugly that it looks like a motivational poster telling you to embrace the void. Run into the light. Fuck it, we're all gonna die anyway. Might as well look cute in a little suit.
A little suit. Is it a suit? What is he wearing? He looks like he's wearing like a judge's outfit.
Yeah. It looks like Pugsley Adams is getting ready for a quinceañera that he's not very excited to go to on account that he's got a thing where the cilantro tastes like soap.
It looks like a live-action gritty reboot of the Donald Duck story.
This looks like an advertisement for Fancy Lad brand Funhouse mirrors. Holy, get your book today!
Or the sequel to Fancy Lad Funhouse Mirror, like Spooky Lad.
Yeah. This is what it looks like. This is what it looks like after you do like the Heimlich maneuver on a dog.
It looks like I don't necessarily have a joke here, but it looks like in like a Marvel versus Capcom type of game where like you have like the guy and then like the second guy that you pick after him. It looks kind of like that, but like you haven't unlocked the second guy yet.
Yeah,
so it's like a child and then a child you're not good enough for yet.
Yeah, you haven't beat the game, so you don't get super child.
Yeah,
you don't get this Victorian baby, but gold.
This is like the end of Raging Bull, but if it was about Richie Rich. You're the boss. You're the boss. You're the boss.
Very good.
I love that. This actually looks like an actual child that's going to haunt my new house. Anyway, the last one. This is I'm reading these jokes provided by 2 Minutes to Late Night co-creator Drew Kaufman. Here we go. This looks like me and my dad shopping at IKEA for my first dorm room. Hey,
that's sad.
Hey, Warsenio, I don't think that RA is going to let you keep a pet bat in your closet. Come on, let's get some meatballs, sport.
All right.
I like when Drew writes the long ones.
Yeah, I was going to say
it's got tags.
I thought that was going to a much darker place where he's shopping for furniture at IKEA with his dad today. Because it's like a dark shadow spirit behind him.
Oh, is his dad dead?
Yeah, his dad's dead.
I
nice
shop at IKEA today
to see if I can still feel.
All right, final Korn thoughts, everybody. What do you got?
What have I become? My meatball friend.
My Swedish friend. My Swedish chef.
Because I'm gay.
All right, final Korn thoughts. I think Twist is as Korn has ever been.
Yeah, I agree. It is the best Korn song. And
it's the best Korn song.
Absolutely. Brynn.
I think this is the beginning of the best Korn. It is the proto-best Korn.
Proto-best Korn, for sure.
It's about half an album I really like.
For sure. This is my favorite Korn album. Listen to anything else from Grindcore instead of Daughters. Anything else. Fuck that guy. He hurt a lot of people. Team Lingua Ignota.
I don't know who anybody is.
I don't know who Lingua Ignota is.
I don't know either of them.
Brynn,
sounds
you
good.
You gotta listen to Lingua Ignota. You gotta listen to it. It's unbelievable.
Okay.
You will. She invented the project. Starts. It's just one woman. She built an algorithm and filled it with misogynistic lyrics and crazy mega church rants, and it printed out lyrics for her. And
is
then
this the lady who Fantano gave a 10?
yes,
Like Sinners. Sorry, I didn't like that album at all.
Oh.
I found it very boring. I think it's cool and I appreciate it. I just don't. I didn't have a melody to me. It's vibes. It's only vibes.
Yeah.
Great vibe.
You got to listen to there's 2 albums before that, and like that.
Are they more melodic?
They have more. They don't have hooks or anything, but they like. There's just other. There's like other elements. There's more like that album that Fantano went apeshit over is kind of like a reverse Converge's Jane Doe, where it's like I want to make a distorted album with with all acoustic instruments. So it's like, I don't think that they explain that very well in that review. I don't set people up to participate in that album well at
Interesting.
all.
It sounded, it reminded me of This Mortal Coil. If there was no like if it was sort of just like riffed, if someone just like made it up on the spot. When I liked This Mortal Coil, but I was like, maybe I was just like, this isn't a 10.
You can't call something a 10 and set it up for like and have anyone participate. Like, I don't think anyone's gonna get a 10 out of it if someone's going like, this is the best album.
Yeah, it's kind of
too hard.
I feel like we even talked about this on the Jet episode of our show about like the idea of like giving something a 0, giving something a 10. It's like giving like the Fiona Apple album a 10.
Right.
For Pitchfork, it's like you're only setting people up to have a bad relationship with an album if you give it a 10, because all anybody thinks about when they hear something that's a 10 is this a 10?
Yeah.
If you give it a fucking 9.5, and you're setting people up with a great expectation.
Yeah.
Like it's gonna be a good album, and you listen, you're like, good album.
Yeah. It's like the project itself is based like it starts off with the algorithm, and then she just starts trying to write that computer's voice each time.
Wait, are you serious? Like she has an algorithm?
So
or are you being like...
No, she literally, the project starts before her first album. She like built an algorithm to write lyrics for her after only feeding it misogynist like Eminem lyrics and megachurch music or megachurch.
But you're not being like metaphorical.
No, literally did that.
Okay.
And then she takes, and so each album for the project of Lingua Ignota is her trying to write in that from the perspective of that voice. And it's just chaos of manipulation and abuse. It is truly the hardest thing to listen to in a cool way.
Interesting.
Yeah. But anyway, I love that record. Thank you guys so much for joining me to talk about Korn.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having
Painful music, huh?
Painful music.
Painful music.
Love the Korn.
Plug Generation Loss.
You can listen to Generation Loss wherever you can find podcasts. We talk about movies. We talk about, mostly we just talk about movies.
We talk about the movies, and we don't take ourselves too seriously.
We don't take ourselves too seriously.
That's a big part of the show. It's a big part of the culture. And you can also check out Brynn's incredible band, Stay Inside.
Yeah,
this
is
a good channel to be plugging that on. We never plug it on the podcast.
Yeah, if you want to hear very dark music about grief and, destroying yourself, you can listen to Stay Inside.
Yeah,
because that's where we get all Jonathan Davis.
Fuck yeah. And everybody joining in can appreciate that. If you know who Monkey is, Steve Mac23, you will enjoy a Stay Inside.
Yeah.
And check out Al Bummer, my show with Jordan and our friends. And if
you want to get real political, listen to BP Bledis too. We just did a good episode with a guy who writes for Heavy Blog is Heavy named Eden, and we talk about metal there too. Good episode.
Love to talk about metal. This is a place to plug a metal show for sure.
It's mostly about communism, but we talk about metal there.
Sometimes. Dr. Dion Peoples talked about my hoodie and said he keeps waiting to read Bane. No, this is banned because it's a joke hoodie that you can buy at 2minutesToLateNight.com at our Death Wish merch store. We got a brand new shirt with a cool pus head inspired design with the skull just shooting a nail gun into its head. It's my favorite shirt design we've
It's
ever
a very funny shirt design. I just saw it on
Nice.
Instagram.
Yeah, it's my favorite one that I think we have right now. I like all of our stuff, but that one made me cackle. Check it out, folks. Thank you all so much for joining us. Next week, we're doing Suicidal Tendencies, a greatest hits album, because I didn't know what I was
nice,
doing.
dude. Hell yeah.
Hell
one with it's got like the re-recorded version of
I Saw Your Mommy
Institutionalized and stuff.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah,
because
nice,
I heard the original record and I was like, wow, this sounds like shit. Oh no.
Yeah. Same thing with Fear for me.
Yeah.
It
takes me an hour and a half to put on my makeup. Pop soda pop guy.
Just a quick non sequitur there. It takes me an hour.
He
and a half
has
to put on
asked
my
it.
makeup.
I saw that question 7 times.
Oh, okay.
It's the end of the episode. We can do it.
He says it all the time. He listens to one podcast and
he's always saying it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right.